Hello everybody and welcome to Destiny 2. Or welcome back to Destiny 2, if you're new here. I'm going to be doing a video that's going to be kind of multi-tandem here. One, we're going to be covering Explorer mode, in a way, because I've not really done much Rite of the Nine content, just because I don't... It's not that I don't care about Rite of the Nine, it's that I think there's nothing really interesting to cover Rite of the Nine related. But I thought, I want to talk about... The thing I want to talk about is Destiny related. I need to do Rite of the Nine's quests before they go away. To get the free weapons, and I thought, well, this works out. Using this Vex Mytho because I have a new ornament for it, but I'm now realizing I need a glaive, so I'm gonna grab my cool stick. My cool stick from last season. And then I'll switch to Arc probably for second encounter. But, yeah, what this video is basically going to be is going to be a kind of I don't want to say a wish list for, Edge of Fate. I'm going to do a separate video on that probably closer to the day, because we also have the, some more upcoming live streams to watch. I'm not going to be able to watch all of them, but I'll be able to watch some of them. But very much going into those blind, I really haven't been watching them at all. The only time I really did was just kind of get the drops for them. But even then, didn't really pay much attention, other than the fact that I saw that there was a crossbow. That's really all I kind of saw. There's a new heavy weapon that's basically a crossbow, which makes me interested in what's going to be coming next. But this is more or less a review of the final shape from the semi-casual / semi-serious perspective, because I'm not a super try-hard Destiny player. I like playing things very casually. I like playing sometimes endgame activities and then sometimes not really. Like, I have Conqueror, but I've never guilded it. I don't really care about guilding it. Like, I want to for the sake of getting Guardian rank 11, but even then it's like it's not that important to me. Because our symbol is turret. But similarly, I also very much... I very much also just kind of prefer to play things at my own pace, just kind of play when I'm super interested in the game and when I actually feel like the grind is worth it. But let's start off with just Final Shape base. So basically the entirety of the release and everything that came with the effectively launch of the Final Shape, not counting Echoes, anything from Echoes yet. The overall campaign is very good. While I know some people would kind of say there's a downside, the fact that Lance Reddick does not voice Zavala is kind of upsetting. However, given the fact that Lance Reddick has unfortunately passed away, I think Keith David did an amazing job giving the Zavala a voice that was very, very good and still embodied the Zavala that we all know and love. Without compromising the overall performance at all. Like, the performance was amazing and was able to give Zavala a voice that didn't change his character whatsoever. If anything, I think it almost improved it in a lot of ways. Which is to say that Lance Reddick couldn't do good voice acting, but it's like, hey, if there was ever going to be someone to replace him, I definitely think Keith David was the right choice. Overall, I think the campaign experience was very good. Prismatic was not nearly as much of a focus like it was, Strand was in Lightfall. I definitely appreciate how well that campaign was structured. And overall, the campaign was actually reasonably difficult. Like, Lightfall had a couple of very difficult missions. And, had a couple very difficult missions that were very standout. Similarly, the Final Shape also had some very difficult missions. The one that comes to mind, honestly, is, Iconoclasm. The final mission. Or technically the final normal campaign mission before the big one. But also there's the... a lot of the missions were very difficult for their own reasons and were very fun for their own reasons, but I definitely could kind of see why some people definitely didn't enjoy it because it was either too difficult or there wasn't as much going on. But I will say it's definitely a lot better than what Lightfall offered, and it's coming from somebody who actually liked the Lightfall campaign. I didn't think it was that bad. Cade coming back, I definitely was always hesitant of, but the way they handled Cade, I think, was very nice. It did allow for a lot of interesting and also very important moments to happen. Like, especially stuff with Crow for the, especially stuff with Crow and the stuff involving, I forget the name of it, the sniper rifle, solar sniper. Oh god, I'm forgetting what it's actually called. I am so dumb. I'm actually incredibly stupid. What's it called? Still Hunt. Good lord, why couldn't I think of that? I think that was a very, very good quest, very, very good moment all around from, all the performances there. I definitely will say that, I definitely wish there was a little bit more Ikora-based content. That's to say because I disliked the others, but it definitely felt like Ikora was very sidelined, at least towards the end. And it was obviously more focused on Zavala, which, to be fair, not a bad thing. Zavala was very good. But I felt like there could have been more involving Ikora. Cade and Crow were very good. I definitely would probably say their story is the most solid. Zavala is definitely being very standout and very out of character, but also in character given everything he's gone through. Especially during the year of Witch Queen and Lightfall. Especially Witch Queen. But I definitely would say overall story from the character perspective, excluding a very specific character I have not mentioned by name yet, very good. Like, probably 8 out of 10. Very, very good. Now we talk about the big, big, big important thing. The Witness itself. The Witness I was always very kind of worried about how the Witness was going to be characterized outside of Lightfall. Or after Witch Queen, basically. And then once we got Lightfall, I was like, okay, this is setting up a lot in terms of what the Witness is. And then Final Shape came out, and I'm not going to say I was disappointed. I was actually very much thrown off guard with how the Witness was characterized. And I was very impressed with how well they made the Witness. Not that I feel like from like humanizing it in a way, like that's definitely not the case at all, but it definitely, you could kind of understand the mindset of the Witness given the collector's edition lore books and generally the overall vibe that the Witness is constantly giving off of like this is what is right of with the world type of thing. It is very weird to say, but I do like the Witness's motivations and character in a lot of different ways because it actually feels very Marvel movie without it feeling like too Marvel comic booky, if that makes sense, or cartoonishly bad, you know? Like, I think he's definitely evil, but he's not cartoonishly evil, if that makes sense. Now we talk about some of the bad, with Final Shape specifically. I definitely will straight up say Prismatic was released way too overtuned especially on Hunter. Way too much. I definitely think Titans probably got the shit out of the stick when it came to Prismatic, and I would definitely say that Warlocks was probably the release the most fine, not like good or bad. Like this is fine. It's not overpowered. It's not underpowered. It's just fine. It's usable basically. But Titan felt, at least early on, before we got the class item, felt awful because all of the good builds that kind of it wanted you to do were all melee, which I'm not a huge melee Titan fan, other than like the current build I'm doing, which is Pyrogale, and even then it's barely a melee build. Did it go right or left? That's the question. Left. But a good example of kind of how I feel is just generally the overall vibe of Hunter is just Titan, but better in terms of melee build, you know? This is coming from somebody who primarily plays Tight, so I guess that's kind of just how I feel. I have a slight bias towards my dislike of Prismatic. But I did try it out on Warlock, and I had a lot more fun on Warlock. I have not done my playthrough on Hunter yet, which I know sounds kind of bad since the entire expansion year is ending soon, and I haven't finished my Warlock or Hunter stories yet. Well, I finished my Warlock Final Shape campaign, it's not the Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy campaign, but I'll probably honestly do maybe this weekend or something if I'm bored enough. Just to kind of say I did it, you know? And then we come to the other big bad thing that I didn't like. Now, as you know, I am not a huge raider. I don't necessarily say I hate doing raids, but I don't necessarily say I love doing them either. I like doing them every so often because they are a fun experience, and they're overall a really, really fun activity to do once I can get 6 people together. Salvation's Edge is the worst raid, I think, in the entire game. Not because it's objectively bad, but because it's so obscenely difficult that it's not fun. Because I basically like to always emphasize this. I like raids that are fun because they're challenging. I don't like raids that are challenging that they're not fun anymore. So an example of this is something like Vow. Vow is very difficult, but it's not so difficult that it's mind-numbingly infuriating to do. Like, I have done the Final Shapes raid, Salvation's Edge, once. And you saw the video of at least... You saw that video. Like, you saw the full raid. That was my first and only time I've done it. I have not touched it. I've not even been in the raid since. Like, I haven't been past first encounter since. But I won't deny that the overall vibe and the experience is fun when you have people who not only know what they're doing, but who have who are able to kind of be like patient with people like me who just generally suck at the game or aren't very mechanically super skilled. I'm not necessarily saying, oh, Salvation's Edge is bad because I suck. It's like Salvation's Edge is bad because mainly just because, hey, this is designed for the absolute pinnacle of players, and it is, like, I definitely think that if there's not enough changes done to it with Edge of Fate to make it at least a little bit more approachable, at least early on, I think it's fine. Like, I think the overall last 2 encounters are fine. It's just the first 3 are so infuriatingly hard. Especially first encounter. Like, it's basically, it demands perfection and doesn't allow mistakes. Which I understand is kind of a point of a raid, is that you can't make too many mistakes. This doesn't let you make any. I kind of talked about it in my rant on Salvation's Edge about how I dislike it. But the difference between Salvation's Edge and something like Vespers or any other raid is that it allows you to make a mistake and recover from it. Unless you have a team that really knows what they're doing, if you make a mistake on Salvation's Edge, the odds of recovering are slim to 0. There is, like, very little chance that you'll recover and be able to make the clear in one attempt. Like, I personally, it's the biggest reason why I dislike that raid, is that it demands perfection, and especially if you're teaching new players, not saying new players of the game, but, like, new, like, if you're trying to Sherpa that thing, I don't think I'd ever want to Sherpa a raid with that, with, like, less than 1 person. Like, I basically would say if I'm Sherping that raid, the only 2 people get to learn it, or maybe 1 person gets to learn it, so that way everyone else can focus on basically helping out the new player. Because, like, it's that hard, at least in my opinion. That is, again, not to say that it's bad, I just dislike it because it is so annoyingly hard. I just think it is not it's just the worst raid to try and teach. I think it's the least fun raid to teach. That being said, though, let's talk about the good of Salvation's Edge, as well as the other things that came with the overall Final Shape thing, because it's not really much bad. Mainly, my only real problem is the raid. Excision. The big 12-man mission that took a while for it to finally be implemented. A 12-man activity. While, yes, the overall experience is very fun, I definitely think the GM difficulty was very interesting to do, but definitely was not the play. At least to have it introduced and have something important to your completion of the DLC, locked behind it. I definitely think it should be there, and I definitely like that it can give raid loot once you beat Salvation's Edge at least once, or once a week you get a free Salvation's Edge red border. But I think that should come with the caveat of it should not be on I think it should come with the caveat that if it's on GM, and you did the raid on normal difficulty, you should get an Adept, regardless of whether or not you complete it on Master. If you complete it on Master, you should get an Adept and a red border. That way you're getting the absolute maximum amount of loot. Basically, I feel like Excision, in terms of if you're doing it post-raid, does not reward you enough. But if you're doing it post-raid, in general, it rewards you enough. But I feel like it should do more, regardless of what difficulty you do it on. Because thankfully, you could get the raid loot regardless of whether it's on GM or not. I just think if you're doing it on GM, that red border should either be converted into a Adept, or there is a, like, really high chance you can get an Adept on GM if you have the, if you cleared the raid during that week. And obviously, if you did Master, you should get maybe, like, instead of a red border, you just get 2 Adepts. I know that seems kind of like handouts, but it's like, listen, if you did the raid on Master and then you do Excision on GM, you deserve that double Adept drop. At least in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a super endgame player, so what do I know? But still, in my opinion, it would make sense to me that that's how that should work. That being said, overall, I definitely think... Also, New Pacific Epitaph. EP. No, thank you. So far, nothing good. I am very sad. That's mostly Final Shape. So, I'm not going to try and make this a pattern, but, like, so far, I am making this unintentionally basically be a thing, section and encounter, but thankfully, one of the episodes is significantly less of a review, because I've already kind of done a review on it, so basically going to keep it brief, and that being episode Echoes, because it did launch Final Shape, and I kind of talked about a lot of my Final Shape thoughts and Echoes in a different video, but I'll basically summarize it like this. I think episode Echoes was very good. I definitely think it suffered from a lot of the pitfalls that seasonal content does, and it was very season-oriented. It felt like just a generic Destiny season with no real substance to it outside of it just being called an episode, and it had 3-act structure, and it was very meh because of it. But I definitely think that there is a lot going on. There was a lot going on in that episode that warrants like something to talk about. I think Choir of One's quest was very fun. I think Choir of One's overall entire vibe and the weapon itself is very good. It's why I invested in the Choir of One stonks with destabilizing rounds, knowing it would probably get buffed in the future, and now Choir of One is probably my most used exotic in terms of ad clear in general. The overall activities, I definitely think were very seasonal activity, like not super anything interesting, but they were still enjoyable enough that I didn't feel like I was falling asleep. But I could definitely see why some people did not like them. I definitely will say they were not the best, but they were really not the worst we've seen. That still falls to Seraph Towers and Season of the Seraph. Or not Seraph Tower, Season of the Seraph. Season of the Warm Mind. No, Worthy. That's what it was. Worthy. Because I didn't play during that season. At all. I think I played, like, a total of maybe a month during that entire season. Maybe even less than that. Maybe 2 weeks worth of actual in-game time was on that season. Same with the Rivals. That was just because Rivals was bad since I was underleveled and couldn't experience half the content in that. So that's a different story. But regardless, I definitely... Ooh, that's not a bad roll. Not the one I want, but not a bad roll. I'm kidding. That was a bad roll. But I could definitely see why some people didn't like Echoes. I definitely think the overall story was reasonably fun. I definitely think the overall vibe was reasonably fun. And I can, again, definitely see why some people did not like it. Also, is this... This feels weird with the... Is this supposed to be... There's supposed to be water here. Why is there no water here? This is whack. Actually, no, there is no water here. What am I talking about? It feels like it's supposed to be water here, but there's none. I'm just stupid and misremembering. But, yeah, like, generally speaking, I definitely think that, Echoes was a very fun season. I think Maya, while it felt like it was kind of, you could kind of see it from a mile away, was definitely a fun reveal. I just think it was weird to bring Maya back in the sense of Lakshmi. I understand that they were effectively the same character, but it's like, it did not... I feel like it just wasn't deserved of a character return, unlike something like, well, like Revenant or Heresy. But that is to say it was bad. Not at all. I just think it was not it would not have been my first choice for a character to be a returning character / reveal. That being said, though, let us move on to the next big episode content. Oh, actually, during Echoes, we obviously had the release... No, we didn't. Never mind. I was about to say we had a release of a dungeon. That's episode Revenant. Which is where we're going on to. Episode Revenant. Episode Revenant is the season I was the most excited for because it's Scorn. And Scorn means Crow, probably. Crow means we might be getting some lore with Fickrel. Fickrel means we're probably going to get the drama of Crow being a Guardian and Fickrel hating Guardians. And we got all of that and more. However, the idea of having Aramis involved was definitely not on my bingo card for that episode, or season. I'll probably refer to them as seasons, just because that's basically what they are. They were basically just seasons, rebranded seasons. But, that being said, though, I did really like what they did with Fickrel's character, and I did really like what they did with Crow's character regarding Fickrel. And overall, I like the story enough to say it was not as bad as people make it out to be. A lot of people say Aramis is a bad written character, a lot of people say Aramis doesn't deserve any of the, like, redemption, but at the same time, I have to disagree for one very simple reason, and that's, Aramis didn't get redeemed. Aramis just had her conflict resolved. She's still a bad character. There's nothing that's going to redeem her ever. She is just now kind of has no reason to be in this system anymore. She has no reason to be angry with the Guardians and the Lightbearers. She has something that can provide her the thing that she's wanted this entire time. That being a new home and basically salvation in general for the Elixni. All those Elixni that, also, I'm really hoping I don't die here. Like, it's basically salvation for all those Elixni that were lost in the whirlwind, that basically came to Seoul because of the whirlwind and looking for the Traveler. That's why I stand by the fact that I don't think that what happened to Aramis' story was not deserved. I definitely think it was not the right play to do certain things with Aramis. But at the same time, it was probably the only way we were going to have her story be resolved. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room, that being Fickrel. I definitely think killing Fickrel properly was an interesting play in the sense of it felt very instantaneous. Like, not to say that it wasn't deserved, it just felt like, I felt like there would have been more of a fight involved. I thought maybe Fickrel would have been like a dungeon boss. Maybe not a raid boss, like a dungeon boss. Although, I will say, his final mission, where you kill him properly, basically the exotic mission for Slayer Baron, or Slayer's Fang, very, very fun. Definitely won't lie there. That being said, though, I definitely feel like Fickrel's character, I'm not going to say didn't match, but I definitely feel like it was a very abrupt end. Because I did want to see more. But the Scorn are still a threat. They're not gone. They're just less of a threat than before. However, let's talk about the other elephant in the room. That being Skolas. I think that Skolas coming back was a very risky play, and the fact that he played no purpose in the story after being released, and only having effectively the mission that allowed you to fight him, was very ballsy and also very weird. Because I would have thought Skolas coming back as a scorned Baron would have had more impact on the story moving forward. Maybe I would have thought he would have been a boss in the final encounter in the Slayer's Fan quest. I would have thought he would have been more involved with the story overall. That is a very, very good PvE role. However, I really just wish it wasn't rerun rounds. Son of a butt. I'll get rid of it, because the other one might be better. But I digress. I digress because of the fact that I want to move on to the bigger part of the story, that being the dungeon. The dungeon, the dungeon, the dungeon. Oh, how I love Vesper's Host. Why do I love Vesper's Host, you may be asking? Why do I think Vesper's Host is an important thing to talk about, given the fact that Vesper's Host is not leaving come the Edge of Fate? That is because of one very, very simple reason. That is, Vesper's Host is the most fun dungeon I think I've ever played. And it's not because of the fact that Icebreaker is in it. It's because it's one of the few dungeons I've played that actually challenged not just my sanity, but challenged my skill as a player in a way that I actually didn't expect, given the hit track record of dungeons. That's not to say that I thought Vesper's Host would be easy. It's that I expected Vesper's Host to be... I didn't expect Vesper's Host to be this good. Now, let's talk about this again in a more important way. Vesper's Host, from a lore side of things, I have mixed feelings, because while, yes, I love the Deepstone Crypt and everything involved with it, I definitely think it was very weird to have this entire thing be effectively a setup for Edge of Fate, but at the same time, it's like, okay. A little weird. But I liked it. I definitely think it's probably up until that point, out of all the dungeons, it's definitely one of my favorite, and especially in terms of aesthetic. It is amazing that we're doing effectively a Deepstone Crypt dungeon that's borderline just a 3-man raid in a lot of ways, because that dungeon's hard, especially solo. But, and that's a big old but, I definitely think the encounters are very demanding. Not in a bad way, but they're very demanding of patience. Because they're not difficult because of the fact that they're like Salvation's Edge. They're difficult because they require you to actually be paying attention. Because similarly to Salvation's Edge, especially in that final boss encounter, you can't sit still unless you're sitting in a very specific spot that I typically use now. But it's still one of those things where, up until we found this out, you could not sit still. It was a constantly moving type encounter, which I enjoyed for the exact opposite reason why I liked Salvation's Edge. I liked Salvation's Edge because it was actually a challenge that didn't feel like it was making me go insane. Vesper's Host, while yes was very difficult in the final encounter, it wasn't overly demanding while you were moving around. Like, yes, you had to be focused on making sure you didn't die by the lightning strikes, to make sure you were able to shoot the boss, and to make sure you had to do this. But it didn't overly demand it. You could just do a little bit of damage, then start running around. Do a little bit of damage, start running around. With the Witness, it felt like you had no time to do any of it. At all. Really, give me Rerun Rounds, Master Arms again. I appreciate it, but how about no? Like, please, give me anything else. I am pleading. Actually, let's do this build. This build's probably a little better, and I can just put on this and then the fusion for stick counter. That being said, though, again, I did enjoy the dungeon overall. I definitely think the weapons that came through the dungeon were very nice. I haven't gotten all the armor, and I haven't even finished the quest for that dungeon yet, but I do very much love the vibe of the dungeon. I definitely think it is probably, again, aesthetically, probably my favorite. And I definitely think the story involved with it is very interesting and very fun. I just think it's a little out of nowhere, given what we had with previous dungeons. And generally speaking, just the kind of vibe of the season kind of didn't necessarily match. But at the same time, it's like, it's fine. Let's talk seasonal activities. About, Season of the Revenant. And I'm going to just call it Season of the Revenant because that's basically what it is. Onslaught Salvation. Fine. I did like Onslaught. I definitely didn't dislike it. I was just a little underwhelmed by Onslaught being the next major seasonal activity. I definitely think if they made that a part... If when it becomes part of the main rotation for normal Onslaught, because I assume that's what they're going to be doing, I'll probably be a little bit more enjoyable. But I definitely wish it was, by default, like, just a free update that was part of the new content, but we had another activity along with it. Prison of Elders, though, or, whatever, I forget what it's actually called in the with the, new season. But that, now that's pretty good. Tomb of Elders, that's what it's called. Tomb of Elders. Now that's spicy. That's very spicy. Me like that. Also, yeah, I think it only does it on Eternity that gives you the loot here. But yeah, overall, Revenant, pretty good. I enjoyed the seasonal content. I enjoyed the dungeon. I enjoyed the seasonal mission. I definitely think Fickrel was a very fun combatant, and I definitely think the little callbacks to the other Barons all coming back, with the exception of the Rider, because the Rider exploded and is basically vaporized. There is nothing left to resurrect. Was very funny. And it was very fun to kind of have that, returning characters come back and have their moment in the sun, especially with the scorned, Revenant Barons and the overall Revenant-type vibe. Plus, Vampire Hunters are always fun. Very Castlevania, if you will. Overall downsides, again, I think the only thing I disliked about it, honestly, and this is going to sound very weird, was the fact that they made it all release on one day. Like, every single act season story. I definitely think, while yes, I have a problem with them releasing weekly, I definitely think it was not the right play to release it all at once. Because while yes, it got rid of a lot of the filler, it kind of made me not play after the first week. Other than, like, maybe if the activity was fun, or, like, just to get my seasonal quests out of the way. But even then, it's like I barely played during Revenant, in terms of, like, the non-dungeon-based stuff. Unfortunately. Now, comes the big old... Okay, I am dying. I'm dying. No, I'm not. I am dying. I'm dying. I'm dying. Goodbye. First death! I want to try and do this flawless, but I know it's explore mode, so it doesn't matter. But... Also, I just noticed I got pinged. But, yeah, let's talk about Heresy. Not the problem, child of the 3 seasons, because I'm not going to say I disliked it. I'm just going to say I disliked one very important thing about it. Which we'll get to. Overall, I was very, very excited for this, because as you know, I have two different types of stories that I love. Vex stories and Hive stories. I like Hive stories the most, because I like Eris, I like characters involved with the Hive, I like the Hive in general. I think the Hive as a species are very interesting. I like Sabbath Moon, I like Xivu, I like Oryx, I like a lot of these characters. I think they're all very fun. So to have a season that was basically meant to be a, hey, let's take all of these characters and that were originally, like, kind of sidelined in Witch Queen. Not all of them. But, like, all these characters that had a Season of the Witch, that we all saw a Season of the Witch, and just say, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Especially bringing back Sloane and all of that. Now, I will address the elephant in the room, that being the voice work not being present. I definitely think that did detract a little bit from the season, but that was out of Bungie's control, and I'm not going to get mad at them for that. That was completely out of their control. Nothing they could have done there. Regardless of that, though, I will definitely say that overall, this season was absolutely amazing. I'm not going to say it's the best, but I would definitely say out of the 3 episodes, it was the best. Story-wise, anyway, with the exception of one thing that, again, we'll get to. And I would like to basically say this, the writing team that decided to make, the voice of Xivu Raph, and then unfortunately they couldn't get the voice work done for Xivu. The irony of the fact that the voice of Xivu Raph is muted is kind of funny. So while I know it was out of your guys' control to not have voice work, I almost kind of really don't want to hear voice work for when we first get the voice of Xivu. It's kind of funny. Crap. I always die in this section, so it's not surprising. But yeah, Episode Heresy. Episode Heresy. God, this season was very interesting. Overall, the Nether. Not to be confused with the Minecraft Nether. That is said like the Nether. No, we're not talking about that one. Not yet anyway. I already did a Minecraft movie review, so I don't need to talk about that. But I will make the joke because it's fun. Overall, good. Like it. Very fun. Need to do it on expert still, because it is... I still need it for my Barodii catalyst, and also I need it for my, title. But other than that, very good. Also, there's the shark. I always forget. The shark's always right here. I'm very dumb. But, yeah. I would say the Nether's probably, out of the activities that was released, probably my favorite. Just because it was probably the most solid one. Barodii overall was kind of an interesting quest in and of itself. I definitely think that I did not expect it to be releasing right away. Like right on basically, not day one, but like the first act, basically. Also, I might die because I just don't think the boss would be this aggressive solo. Also now realizing I should probably switch to Queenbreaker. I don't think Federal is going to be very good against this guy. Well, actually, maybe it will. We'll try it with Thunderlord. Actually, no. But, yeah, overall, like the Nether. Quarter Blades, on the other hand, I think it's fine. I'm not going to say I disliked it. I'm not going to say I hated it. I just definitely think it was not at all what I expected. As for the... Did we get an exotic mission? No, we didn't. Did we? No. No, we didn't. Did we? Well, we did with Barodii, but we just didn't get it in Act 3. What did we even get? What did we even get with Act 3? I forgot. Sort of blades. And we didn't really get anything with that. Yeah. I actually forgot what we got in Act 3. Oh, you know what it was? I don't think we got anything in Act 3 because of the fact that it was such a close window between Act 2. Maybe we got quarter plates in Act 3, I think. I don't know anymore, man. Regardless, I definitely think quarter blades was fine. I'm not saying I disliked it. It just simply wasn't for me. It's not my type of activity. It's kind of just turn your brain off type activity, which I'm not always opposed to, but it just felt very low stakes, and I definitely would have preferred something a little bit more higher stakes, but at the same time, I'm not going to complain. At least not as much as I would normally. But we're going to talk about the other big thing, that being all of the exotics that came out with the season. Obviously, we have the... You saw me using it a brief moment ago. The trace rifle, that is the primary trace rifle. Good lord, but why? I think it was fun, but why did we release it and have that be a thing that can be used in Crucible with something like Radiant Dance Machines? Why? Why did you do that, Bungie? Pharaoh Dyad. Now that's a weapon. That was a very fun weapon to have kind of come out of nowhere. What other weapons are actually released this episode? Oh, I know the weapons released this episode. We're not going to talk about it yet because it's not important. But we're going to talk about it because it is important. Yeah, Pharaoh Dyad. Oh yeah, I never talked about Lethanim or the other exotic that came out, which was... Red Death. Red Death was good. Red Death was fine. Lethanim, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it was fine. What else did we get? Oh no, we didn't really get the two. What am I talking about? Lodestar, that's what it's called. But yeah, overall, I definitely think the exotic offering this entire year cycle, very solid. Very, very, very solid. I would literally say the only thing I dislike was the fact that we got 3 Void Special Exotics in 3 seasons in a row. Because we got Very Bloodline, we got Choir of One, and we got Slayer's Fang. All within 3 seasons of each other. To finally see that we went a season without getting another Void Exotic was like, yes! Finally! And it makes me hope that we're going to continue this trend of getting less Void Exotics. Because, good lord, there are so many. Please give us a Solar Exotic. Give us a Stasis Drain Exotic. Please, Bungie. I beg of you. We're getting a hand cannon that does Arc and Stasis. So I'm very happy with that. Although we are getting that Void Scout Rifle, which I am not opposed of. It's good. Looks interesting. Borgor. Burger on table. Or no, that's not burger on table. That's pancakes. And pizza box on table. Oh, they actually tell me where they are. Oh, that's neat. I guess it makes sense. Basically directed mode for fucking this game. Which I do like. I'm gonna probably talk about this in its own little section at the end here, too. Because this is effectively like a new seasonal drop in a lot of ways. Also, good lord, voice crack. Hello. But, overall, Episode Heresy is very good. Title-wise, I definitely think out of all of the 3, I think Slayer Baron sounds probably the coolest, but I won't deny Heretic is very fun. Overall experiences in terms of the the seasonal, seasonal loop. I definitely think seasonal loop is definitely getting tiring. I understand a lot of people are not a huge fan of how the seasonal format, and it makes me really kind of excited to see what they're going to do in Edge of Fate. And again, it gives me hope that with Edge of Fate, we're going to be getting some serious mix-ups with how the overall content's going to work. Also, I know I T-crashed that. I was low health and I didn't want to die. I just kind of punched my way back to super. So. Also, where the hell the... Oh, Unraveling Rounds. But let's continue onward. The dungeon, Thunder Doctrine. This dungeon, I have mixed feelings on, because on one hand, I think the dungeon is absolutely amazing because it basically means, hey, if you're a lore nerd, you kind of have a little bit of an advantage. So if you're like me, you have a slight advantage. However, I definitely think that Second Encounter is the most annoying encounter in the game. Not because it's hard, but because, oh my god, the bees. The bees are just so annoyingly hard to deal with, man. Final Encounter, very, very fun. Very demanding, very fun. Again, Thunder Doctrine feels very... a step back in terms of overall quality, but still a step up in terms of fun, if that makes sense. Like, in terms of difficulty, it's a step back, but in terms of fun, it's a step up. Which is to say Vesper's Host is a step down in terms of fun. Both those are fun. I'm saying in comparison to Vesper's Host is a step up. But, Yeah, overall, I'd say Sunder Doctor is probably one of my favorite dungeons in the game. It's one of the ones that while I don't think I'll get the title for it, I definitely kind of want to. Let's kill this guy. Not bad damage. But, yeah, overall, Thunder Doctrine very solid. Now let's talk about the big bad about Revenant. Or not Revenant, Heresy. There are a few things. I definitely think the reveal of Eris being alive, I feel like should have been saved for, like, a different moment. Us finding it out in week 1 of Act 1 was definitely a bit weird. I definitely think, honestly, I definitely agree that it was a good idea to bring Eris back and have her effectively have this hive power. But having her effectively be, I forget actually the exact order of how things work, but to have her effectively be killed and then effectively bring her back, or basically so that she's not dead, I think from a player standpoint was fine, but I think from a character standpoint, I definitely think is still fine. Because obviously our characters don't know she's dead, but us as players do know that she's not dead. Or, us as characters don't think she's dead, but us as players know she's not. I definitely think revealing it so that we all find out at the same time in-game. So, like, when we get the messages from Eris saying that she's alive, like, the remnants of Eris, the fact that she's alive, I definitely think that should be when we get that cutscene. Because it's just a little bit better, in my opinion, in terms of, like, tension. But that's just me. And then the other big thing, which is, of course I'm going to talk about, is the resolution of Oryx in general. I definitely think, while yes, the only way of solving that problem was to kill him, because letting him be free is arguably worse than letting him be, or letting him be free is definitely not the best outcome. Letting him be free with the option of having Xivu or Savathun take hold of him was definitely not a better idea. I understand a lot of people say that killing him was very off-putting and very weird, but I still think it was the better of the two, because doing it the way that they did it was, like, letting him be free is arguably riskier, because the fact of he could turn around and come back. However, I definitely think that the mission could have been drawn out a little bit more, and I wish there could have been more pushback from Xivu and Savathun during that mission. However, I think what we got was fine. Overall, I think a lot of the stuff that came out was very fun. I think time-gating stuff like Barrow Dyad and overall a lot of the missions was a little bit bad. But at the same time, I get why they did it. They didn't want everyone completing all the content all in one sitting, but they also didn't want to give everyone everything all in one sitting. So they basically semi-time gated it. Which is fine. But it makes me wonder, especially with how Barrow Dyad works, is how we're going to be able to switch between the two modes. If you don't know how Barrow Dyad works, effectively, its perk is reliant on either you having it be set to a one-for-all type thing or a target lock type thing to proc its ability. And it's basically based on what path of progression you're on for Season of Heresy. However, I definitely think that out of the two, if they're gonna go do anything, it's probably gonna be a thing where you can either just make it so you can toggle it on and off in the weapon itself, or it's literally just a way you just have to recraft every time. I think recrafting is definitely the worst way of the two. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if they make you craft 2. If that's how you'd have to do it, I'll just craft 2. I'll just have two different versions of it. One for all, one for... one with one for all, and one with target lock. Then, sure, I'll do it that way. Regardless of this, overall, still very solid season. Because a lot of it was very hyped up, and I was very hyped up to see a different season pacing. The pacing was very different because Act 1 was decently long on normal length. Act 2 was, I literally think, 3 weeks. And then Act 3, excuse me, was still ongoing, but Act 3 was basically all of the resolution. Overall, if I had to rate each season based off on a scale of 1 to 10 for the 3 different categories of story, Echoes is probably like a 7 out of 10. Gameplay loop in terms of like the seasonal activities for Echoes, I'd say, again, probably like a 7. Very average, a little bit better than average. But then overall vibe and like fun time during the season, I'd say it's a 6. Like, it's not that I disliked it, it's that I was kind of just bored of it after a little bit. For Revenant, I'd say 8 out of 10 basically for all 3 categories there, because again, very fun season. I'd probably say it's the most consistent. Heresy, though, story, 9 out of 10. Absolutely amazing. Literally, the only thing I would have changed would be the resolution of Oryx, or, actually, it would literally just be the resolution of Oryx, honestly. That's the only thing I would really complain about. And then, gameplay, 6 out of 10. It's not that I disliked the Nether or the Quarter Blades. I just didn't enjoy them as much as I thought I would. And that's because I kind of got burnt out on them after a little bit. Although, gameplay overall, I'm thinking like an 8 out of 10. I still really enjoyed it. It was very good. Whenever I was playing those activities and doing generally everything else. Again, Dungeons very kind of helps out with that too. Finality's Augur from the dungeon. Haven't gotten it yet, but from what I've seen, very fun. Similarly, if I must say, for Icebreaker, very fun. Haven't gotten the Catalyst yet, but it's still very fun to use whenever I do get to toy around with it. And, yeah. Let's talk about the big thing that I'm doing right now, which is Edge of Fate, which is our kind of effective 4th episode / Act 4 of Episode Heresy. I definitely think the original way that it was handled with how they were going to talk about it and release the content was not the way to do it. However, the changes that they made to basically make it how it is right now was definitely good. I definitely think that if they do this again, whether it's with Into the Lights Pantheon or with Right of the Nine doing more dungeon refreshes, I definitely think that if they do it again, they definitely need to follow the advice of what they did, basically changed with this. But if I had to do say one thing about Right of the Nine, is keep some of these changes permanent, please, for the love of God, especially with Ghosts. Oh my God, please make the first encounter shorter and make this easier. Spire, I can take it or leave it. With Prophecy, I can take it or leave it. I definitely think, though, the changes should be made proper to the final game, and I definitely think Explorer Mode should be looked into as an idea for the rest of the dungeons, as well as maybe raids. I know we kind of have LFG for that, but I definitely think Explorer Mode should be an option for at least the other dungeons, if not raids. Because I definitely love this. Not to say from the standpoint of being a solo player, but from the standpoint of wanting to get more people to play the game. As well as it's easier to teach, I think, during Explorer Mode than it would be during anything else. Because think of it this way, if you teach somebody during Explorer Mode, they will basically, you could probably have it be a thing where they get a set rolls on each weapon for every encounter. Like, you get, basically, by the end of the dungeon, you get, like, a middle-of-the-road roll / set roll for all of the weapons and armor. So it doesn't give you anything that's overpowered, but it gives you stuff that is usable, but not broken good. So, like, maybe you get, like, a well-rounded incandescent, or like a generic, like, rangefinder incandescent SMG. Oh, that was the wrong one. Oh well. Doesn't kill you though. But you kind of get the idea. Like, it gives you... Oh, God, that might kill me. But you kind of just get, like, generic weapons and... Oh, jeez. I'm gonna die. Yeah, I'm absolutely dead. It's fine. I definitely think they should keep this, and maybe not necessarily the full experience, but I definitely think they should keep the idea of this type of content moving forward, especially Explorer mode. Maybe not Eternity and Ultimatum, maybe as like a one-time thing when they do maybe they do Ray of the Nine as like a end of the season hurrah to get people kind of interested in getting into the next expansion. Maybe they do it, but I definitely think doing this type of content is definitely a good idea. Overall, though, weapon refreshes, I think it's very nice for the dungeons especially, because it means that these weapons get a new breath of fresh air. They can sometimes get updated rolls, because some of them are getting older, like Prophecy especially. Or Spire as well, like Spire, Prophecy, definitely. Ghost, I think, was a bit weird to do Ghost. I would have thought they maybe would have done Grasp or... I would have thought they maybe would have done Grasp, that way it can get its own origin tree and stuff, or even maybe Pit or... Shadow Throne. But I guess then again with Grasp, content-wise, I think the weapons are pretty okay. Maybe they could have gotten updated a little bit better, who knows. But then again, these are fan-favorite dungeons, so I guess I'm not really complaining. But I think I'm gonna leave it there. I'll be doing a video on my wish list for Edge of Fate, probably again close to the day, maybe either later this week or the week of Edge of Fate, maybe. We're gonna kill this boss as our little outro here. I know I could go to final, but I can do that on my own. Yeah! I forgot I had my super still. Mirror Imago. But yeah, that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more videos like this one, be sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm keeping that. That's very good. Not the role I'd want, but that's very good, and I'm keeping that. I know a lot of people say, oh, but it's not a clip. Shut up! It's good. But, yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Watching this make. Have everybody stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow with more Gears of War 5. Or Gears 5. And, yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Everybody, stay safe. Also, yes, if you stuck around to the end, put your favorite weapon roll that is not a meta weapon. So, like, maybe, for example, my personal favorite weapon roll right now is this Encore Voltshot Division, because... Well, I haven't used it. I've used it a little bit before I put the upgrade on it. It's very fun. I actually did not expect this to be that good. I know it is basically the Curator roll that they give you for free, but it's still pretty good. I enjoyed this. Very fun.